Well, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Scott Hedrick, and I'll be your host for the webinar today. And we have a very interesting topic, which I will get to in just a moment. First, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. So today's webinar is scheduled to last about an hour, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. All of the participants, please, you'll all be muted so that we can speak without interruption. And if you could submit your questions to the Meet the Experts user on the WebEx chat, then at the end we'll go through and address as many of the questions as we're able to. It's also being recorded, and this webinar will be posted on the Informatica Support YouTube channel, so if you want to share it with your colleagues or go back and look at something, you'll be able to do that. And when you're done, we'd love it if you could give us some feedback and let us know how we did. So with that, let's get into the topic for today. And so today we have an interesting and new topic, which is about how to improve analytics by doing your data quality and your data as a service centrally in a hub, specifically Informatica's Data Integration Hub. And this is a new pattern that we're seeing an increasing interest in, especially as companies across the world are looking for ways to modernize their data infrastructure in order to use data to power their business transformation or better adopt new analytics or new applications. So today we're going to cover that, and I'm joined today. I'm Scott Hedrick. I lead product marketing for Informatica's Integration Hubs. I'm also joined by Thomas Brents, who is my colleague in product marketing. And Thomas is an expert in data quality and data as a service. We also are thrilled to have Stefan Mans join us. He's one of our amazing product specialists. And Stefan is here, and he's got an interesting live demo that we're going to show for you today to see all of this in action. So we have a pretty simple agenda today. We're going to start out, and Thomas is going to talk to you about Informatica data quality, just give you a kind of a high-level view of it, and he'll do a similar thing, give you a bit of an overview of DaaS, or data as a service. Then we'll get into the main topic. I'll highlight, a few of the highlights of Data Integration Hub, and then we'll talk about the benefits of doing centralized data cleansing and enrichment, using these products together. And then I'll also cover a little bit about how some of Informatica's customers are putting this into practice. Then we're going to hand it over to the incomparable Stefan Mans, who will do a demo of this and show you how it works. And then we will close with a question and answer session. So once again, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to hand it over to Thomas. Thomas, are you there?
Yep.
Fantastic.
Let me share my application for you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, I think we're right back to where Scott left off. And thanks, Scott, for having me here today. I really appreciate it. Again, as Scott was saying, my name is Thomas Brents, and I'm the Product Marketing Director for Informatica Data Quality, as well as our Data as a Service product. I'm going to talk to you about both of those today, but we're going to start out by talking about data quality. To begin, we can kind of talk about the scale of the data quality problem, and this is really applicable to both what we do around data as a service as well as data quality. I could have grabbed a ton of marketing research points to talk about the scale of this issue, but I grabbed just 5 that I wanted to feature. The first is that 36% of companies surveyed estimated annual losses of more than $1 million. Some as much as $100 million due to what they're classifying as data quality issues. This is where you can really calculate that 1 to 10 to 100 rule. It takes $1 to verify a record as it's entered. It takes $10 to clean it and dedupe it after the fact, and $100 for that company that they do nothing at all, and that's per record. So the scale of the problem gets up there pretty quickly. Now, the second stat I really wanted to talk about in terms of the scale of the issue is that 40% of executives surveyed said that they're making business decisions based on data that they know that they don't trust. And when you're signing off on, annual accounts and needing confidence to comply with regulations out there like BCBS 239 or some of the product labeling or GDPR, you really need data that you can trust and rely upon. Also, I thought this was a great one. There's a 100% increase in cost if you're doing a data integration, a data migration project, and data quality is not taken into consideration, if it's overlooked. We've seen this with a number of accounts. There's and 94% is less spent on fixing data quality errors when using a data quality tool. This translates into 12 working days for a full-time employee. And then finally, we have one very large company in the UK that saved $30 million based on using data quality to really hone in on the supplies and the ingredients that they're using in their products. So all in all, data quality can add up to big savings for your organization, or if you're not using it, it can cause big, giant harm in terms of annual revenue loss. So let's talk just a little bit about what you're using and where data quality can really be accessed and leveraged throughout your organization. It brings a lot of value to teams of every size. Your sales team will be more efficient with better data at their fingertips. Marketing campaigns will work much better as the right materials will make it to the right customer every time. And customer service will be able to mitigate challenges more easily by having the best data to rely upon. You'll see more accurate analytics and complete data. There'll be no more pie charts with that big unknown as the top category. And your regulatory reporting will be more accurate and reliable, and enabling your data governance programs to rely on its data. And finally, the customer experience that we're all striving for will be enhanced with better quality data. So let's give you a quick glimpse into this technology. I know Stefan's going to really dive into how you can leverage the tools in the hub. I just want to give you a little bit of, kind of keys around how we look at data quality. First, to kind of start this glimpse, think about this as how data quality can be leveraged to data governance so that your analytics program has the right data consistently. This can and will be an ongoing process that involves stakeholders of all shapes and sizes from both business and IT. It's a collaboration. So typically one starts with discovery, and this is understanding the current state of data by profiling it for quality and other problems. You're discovering sensitive data and data relationships. This is really critical, and it's a great starting point to both educating the business and IT stakeholders on the current status of your data today. Then in the defined state, we're really looking for the ideal state. What is the ideal data quality going to look like? And this can include our business glossary for defining common vocabulary of how you talk about data. For example, what is a customer? I know we talked to a very large bank about how they define customer, and it's very different in different pockets of the organization. So things like business glossary really allow them to get everybody on the table, or everyone at the same place at the same time. One of the interesting things about this technology is that you can actually define the rules on how you treat data once, and then you can deploy them anywhere. That's one of those key differentiators. In the apply state, we're looking at developing and deploying those rules that we defined in the defined state, and we're putting them wherever they're needed. It also includes business process management for remediating exceptions and managing changes, among other things that require the stakeholders to collaborate effectively. Then ongoing measuring and monitoring, and this is really about how to keep the data on track, how actual data is conforming to policies, scorecards. We leverage dashboards and reportings to ensure that you can always measure and monitor your data. And finally, again, this is a cycle. It's cyclical, right? New data sources may come online or need to be reconciled with existing data, or apps that you use can get upgraded. But the fundamentals of being able to define, apply, measure, and monitor, and starting with discovering your data are applicable. So now there's a lot of different examples that we can give about how data quality works. Today, since we've kind of mapped this discussion to our data as a service element, I'm going to kind of hone in on a contact data verification example. And this is not different than what you would have in maybe a CRM, for example, very, very common use case. We're going to start out with just talking about profiling. Profiling is really one of the first steps that you'll take when you're talking about data quality, and it reveals the content and the structure of the data. This is what you need to know before you can really do something about it. Once the data issues are discovered, then you can start to apply the appropriate data quality rules. One of the next steps is then to parse that data and break it down into the discrete components so that the tool knows what to look for when it gets to the next step, which is to correct. And this is correcting misspellings, bad grammar. We can validate addresses in this step. Then we standardize the data. And then, again, you can see the service is using the same exact data, and we're actually standardizing it. So in this case, you can actually mail to that customer. Then we match that data to other sources that you might be using. So if you're taking from your invoicing system and you're comparing it to your CRM, for example, we want to make sure that Jim J. Smith is also James Smith. And we can do that through this matching stage. But it's kind of not the best efficiency if you're not merging the data, and that's the best next step, is to bring these two records together. And then finally, we can enrich it. We can use our data as a service portfolio to take that now merged record and add missing components to it, to have a more complete record, whether it's taking that address and adding a longitude and latitude coordinate to it so you can actually map that particular address, or you're using some of our consumer data enrichment elements to identify what kinds of individuals live in a particular zip code in a particular community. So alternative to kind of the whole why Informatica story, I just want to share a few pieces of information. First and foremost, and this is great news, just came out last week, is that we're #1 in the Gartner Magic Quadrant on both axes, completeness of vision as well as ability to execute. We are the leader in data quality. We spend more revenue in R&D versus the industry average of 12%. So we're really taking into consideration how we can continue to evolve our products. We're also #1 in customer loyalty. I have 9 years in a row. It was actually 10 years in a row. And we're processing a ton of data. There's over 100 billion rows across different domains that we're leveraging through our data quality tools. And we could prove our ROI. We've had one customer actually even state that they've saved over $3 million in just 3 months alone. Speaking of customers, I mean, you can see the logos that are up here. We've worked with some of the best organizations in the world to help them get their data to a reliable state. So let's take just another brief moment here and talk a little bit about what is data as a service. This is the second component that Stefan is going to demonstrate to you later today in the Data Integration Hub. First and foremost, our data as a service portfolio really allows customers to confidently connect with their customers using verified and enriched data. So what do we mean by verified and enriched data? Well, to start, our data as a service really begins with the verification step. We want to make sure that what you're verifying is verified and accurate. And again, this comes back to data quality. We want to make sure that every component within a customer contact record, whether it's the customer's email address, their phone number, or their mailing address, is accurate and safe to use. For the email addresses, we're actually going out in real time to the domain and checking to make sure that that email address is accurate. So we don't check against a stale database, basically because email addresses are so fragile. I can go set up 7 of them right now. Tomorrow I could cancel 3 of those, and I could use none of them over the course of time. We also do an interesting step in our email verification solution where we do what's called a hygiene check. So we actually go out and make sure that this email address is free of any what we would consider a malicious threat. Is it a spam trap? Is it a honeypot? We can check using our proprietary algorithms to make sure that the email address that you have on file for any customer across the world is something that's safe and reliable for your organization to use. On the phone validation front, not only are we verifying that that phone number is actually accurate for over 240 countries and territories across the globe, but we also can ensure that we tell you a little bit more about that information, about that data. So not just that the phone number is valid, but also that it's in a particular time zone, so that your sales team isn't picking up the phone or your customer service team isn't picking up the phone and calling a customer in the middle of the night to tell them about the next great solution that we have to offer. And finally, we probably have the best address verification solution on the market. We're literally the only address verification vendor that has received every single postal certification across the globe that's available. Our address verification solution is powered by Address Doctor, one of the Informatica acquisitions, and it's applicable across the globe, 240 countries and territories. We can verify that the postal address is accurate and safe to send to. On the enrichment side, now that we have kind of accurate data, we also can enrich that data. So we've hand-selected some B2B and B2C partners to get you the best data that's out there on the market. That way you don't have to go out and hand-select your own vendors. You don't have to configure different solutions. All of our solutions are configured through the same API structure, whether you're dealing with B2C or B2B data. On the B2C side, we can tell you things like, have they moved? If you're missing a phone number, we can tell you what their phone number is or their address if you're missing their address. We can tell you, as you saw in the parsing example before, what kind of people live there in a given community so that you know how to market to those organizations. We can even tell you down in select areas of the world what kind of vehicles a given what kind of vehicles a given consumer drives. On the B2B side, we also can tell you things about your business customers out there. We've created a unique partnership with Dun & Bradstreet to bring what we call our business data enrichment through an API to append to that verified information. We can tell you what industry a customer is in, what's their organization structure, if they're public, how much revenue do they do. We can also do the geocoding that we showed you, which gives you latitude and longitude coordinates. So if you're in manufacturing or shipping, for example, you can actually map out where your best routes are. If you're planning where to put a new building, you can map out where your customer centers are at. All of that is done through what we call data enrichment. And the two components, verification and enrichment, is really what makes up Informatica Data as a Service. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Scott to tell you a little bit more about the Data Integration Hub. Scott?
Thank you so much, Thomas. That was really interesting. And, it's great to see how, the old adage in computing that, garbage in, garbage out is, is as true or more true today as it has ever been. And, with data quality and data as a service, there's an opportunity to take garbage in and turn it into great quality data. And then next we'll get on to the Data Integration Hub, which can distribute that great quality data. So thanks again, Thomas. Let's get into Data Integration Hub. And this is Scott. I'm back with you. And so as some of you have been around, have done data integration or data quality for a while, you know that the traditional way to do data integration is point to point. You have targets, you have sources, and you move data from sources and targets and process it in between. And it starts out really simple on your first project or two, but as you add all these point to points, it becomes complex. And this is an example of a real customer that mapped out all of their data integrations in their company and shared this with us. And, maybe this looks familiar if you're a large organization, but things can get really complex, and it's then hard to change and govern, and particularly if you have a new project, like you are introducing new analytics systems or new applications such as ERP or SaaS apps, you want to take a cleaner approach. And that's what Informatica offers, is you can go from this to the simpler, more organized approach of the Data Integration Hub, which uses a simple publish and subscribe model that is focused on data. On the left you'll see the publishers, and on the right the subscribers, but all systems can be both, actually. And this is a way to better organize data integration, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in the next couple slides. Informatica, although we're the only one with a data integration hub today, we're not the only ones that think it's a great idea. Ted Friedman from Gartner has spoken about this approach as an opportunity for companies to be more strategic and get more standardized about their data and better manage their data. TDWI, and Philip Russum joined us on a webinar earlier this year, says that, not taking an approach like Data Integration Hub or a hub, but just doing point-to-point, it's the lack of an architecture, and it has a lot of challenges. It's difficult to understand and update, it's very difficult to reuse things, it's hard to optimize, and because there's so much manual work, it's more expensive. So what is Informatica's Data Integration Hub? Well, this combines centralized hybrid data management with self-service for distributed teams. So as I said, it's a publish and subscribe hub for data. So it has some of the aspects you might know about from an ESB, an enterprise service bus, this publish and subscribe architecture, but instead of moving, little tiny kilobit messages or packets very quickly, this hub has the full power of Power Center or our big data management or Informatica Cloud that's actually transforming the data and moving it. And it can also have the full power of things like Data Quality and DaaS embedded in it. And so this allows you to orchestrate your data workflows across your new cloud SaaS apps, cloud environments, your Hadoop environment, and all of the existing systems you might have, going back even to mainframes. And in order to empower distributed teams, we've created a web-based user interface with wizards that make it easy for teams to self-serve and help themselves without having to wait on centralized IT for everything. And because you have this overall view, it's easier to understand, govern, and manage your entire data integration system. So, for example, how the centralized data processing works. It makes it more efficient to implement it and evolve it. On the left, you'll see that the data from all the apps and databases, your sources, those get targeted, they get published through the hub. The hub centralizes all of the processing. And then when data sets are prepared and ready, then they're distributed to every system that needs it, whether those analytics or an SAP system or Salesforce.com. And each of those systems can receive the data at the exact time they need it. So some might need it, as soon as possible in near real time, but others may want it Sunday night so that they can prepare for reporting Monday morning. So every system gets the same fresh data. And this really accelerates all of your data integration processes. You have automation, better manageability, and it's more efficient because, you know, many of the cloud systems, whether they're SaaS apps or they're cloud platforms like Amazon or Azure or Google, they often will charge you for data transfer API costs. So if you're redundantly hitting them for requests for data, you can rack up extra charges, which you don't need to have if you're using this hub approach. So the self-service is enabled through a very easy, as I mentioned, wizards and step-by-step user interface that can auto-generate publications and subscriptions. And this allows the less technical users to help themselves. So there's also management and visibility across the Data Integration Hub. You can see all of the processes. You can monitor what's going on. And there's alerting so that you can kick off an email, for example, if there's an error, and go in there and rerun it or repair it and get the hub moving forward again. So now we get into the heart of our topic today, which is how you can combine these products together. So you've heard about data quality and data as a service. Well, what you can do with Data Integration Hub is you can create custom mappings and processing that are published through the hub that can use the full breadth and depth of Informatica's data quality and data as a service. And what you can do then is you curate the data, you centrally prepare it, and then you distribute that exact same data to all the systems that need it whenever they need it. And that way you don't have to worry about data fragmentation. You know, if somebody was feeding, say, your SAP system, and they might have done a slightly different data quality mapping than somebody that was feeding Salesforce or an Oracle database, you don't want to have that fragmentation. And we did a survey of our customers. In the lower right, you'll see some results, and more than half of them agreed that there's a significant impact in efficiency if you can centrally do your data quality and enrichment. So how this improves analytics is in two ways. One is, since you have centralized data management, then you have consistency and confidence in the data. You can automate this delivery of a kind of one source of truth for the organization across all the analytics systems and operational systems, and they all get it just when they need it. The other way is through this self-service. So the self-service means that if an analyst, say, is spinning up a new Tableau server or some cloud analytics system, or they have a new database to do some exploration, they can just self-subscribe and get the data sets they need delivered to that system just at the schedule that they want it. So, and of course, we all know great analytics is built on great data. So with that, maybe I can talk about how some of our customers are using these solutions together and how they're benefiting from centralized data management and cleansing. And these are a few Informatica customers that have spoken publicly about Data Integration Hub this year. Let me just touch on all of them. They're all in production with Data Integration Hub and have had great results. So Nissan, for example, they spoke very recently at the Tableau conference. And by the way, you can go see it if you look at the Tableau conference website, see a video. They spoke about using Data Integration Hub to distribute data to Tableau servers across the company. That way they can have a consistent distribution of high-quality data, and then all of their analysts can spend less time searching for data and just spend their time analyzing. And they've really done this to help build a data-driven culture at Nissan. Rabobank, they participated in a webinar with us earlier this year together with TDWI, and they talked about how they're using Data Integration Hub as the backbone to distribute data across the bank. and how it's made everything much easier and simpler, cleaner for them, and has made compliance with regulations easier as well. A few customers spoke at Informatica World this year. MasterCard, the WATEC team at the state of Washington, they're the IT team for all of the state of Washington, as well as Humana, and all of them spoke about the benefits that they got from this combination of the centralization for consistency and the self-service to allow their distributed teams to do more easily themselves. JLL is another one. Jones Lang LaSalle is another one. We recently did a customer story on them, and they spoke about how they're using Data Integration Hub together with multiple Informatica products to centrally master and cleanse data and then distribute it across the company. And they're using this for digital transformation and to also better understand and interact with their customers. So those are some great examples of companies that are benefiting from this centralized data curation. So what are the top-level benefits? So why would you do this? Well, the benefits of using data quality and data as a service in the hub centrally is first that consistency. You have data consistency across the organization. You won't have mismatching numbers, and that allows you to do more consistent and better analytics. You can publish this high-quality, cleansed, and enriched data to every system across the company in parallel. And if you make changes, all those changes can flow through. So there's a lot of automation and efficiency to be gained. The self-service, this empowers your team. That way, every single new access to data or change in the data doesn't require a central IT request and wait, but can actually be done in a self-service manner. So you also, because the hub is more efficient, then you can remove redundant workflows. As I said, you don't want to rack up extra charges in the cloud, for example, or overload your network. And then finally, governance. Being able to have better visibility, have better confidence in the integrity and the quality of your data allows you to better power your business with data. So with that, I would like to invite Stefan Mons to join me, actually to take control. And Stefan is going to walk you through a demo and show you how this all works in action. Stefan, are you there?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Scott.
Fantastic.
Yes.
It's all yours, Stefan.
Great. That's good. Thank you. And to get rid of this one. Okay. So yeah, my name is Stefan Mons. I'm in pre-sales as a product specialist, and I cover Data Integration Hub. So for the demo today, what we're going to show you is kind of a full circle of how we can leverage all the techniques that we spoke about and combine them with the Data Integration Hub. So we glanced over this a little bit, but we will show you how important it is to actually analyze and profile some source data before you even consider this possibly as a publication source for the Data Integration Hub. We will show how to leverage data quality terms and rules, how they span across of the data steward role to the developer role, and then we will leverage also data as a service as well as data quality rules that maybe the data steward has built in the Data Integration Hub. So we can use that for publications. That's typically the best practice, obviously, because as Scott mentioned earlier, we want to ensure highly curated data in the Data Integration Hub, and that would be essentially the way that we can get that done. And then also a little bit of a quick look on what happens if there are exceptions, because our platform and the data quality solution allows you to address that as well. So this is kind of the environment. This is not a full DIH demo, Data Integration Hub. So we're going to focus on this publishing because we want to leverage data quality, data as a service, and combine this with a platform to actually feed into the Data Integration Hub. So we're going to get started with that. And So here we go. So let's look at this first topic of the analysis. Basically, the Informatica Analyst solution is part of the data quality. So the first logical step would probably be to actually look at a profile. So to create a new data profile of some kind of a source, do it in this browser-based interface is really key. What we will see when we do that is it's going to give us at a glance basically the structure and the content of this data set. So imagine we wanted to use this customer data set here to publish this into the DIH. So we would want to see all the results of this. It's kind of look at the null statistics, the patterns, the potential types of the data, and maybe see what is kind of invalid or what is an outlier value. And we want to discover that just with basically the chance here, right, in the data quality tool. And then once we have looked at this a little bit better, we can also use that same tool to work on some rules and business terms. So here, for example, we can use a term, in this example, a marital status term, where we are actually defining this and have a policy around that, which also takes place, handled by the data steward, basically in our data quality tool. So we will provide the definition for this. So a lot of times for the data steward, really this becomes sort of the one-stop shop for information, because as they participate in this whole process, they want to do it in that way, and they can then create something called a reference table. So we spoke about this term of the marital status. So this is an example of a reference table. We can also get started on that when we are in the data profile, where we could see all the possible values and then turn that into a reference table, eliminating the bad ones and then telling with the reference table how we want to standardize this into the actual good values. So this is then the rule builder. So when we build a rule, the data steward can build a rule here. Basically, they like to call it a top-down policy-driven rule. So they start this graphically, create some logic in there. Like in this case, what they're really simply doing is telling how to replace the valid or the invalid values in the actual source data by the values from the reference table, and then test the rule in this environment. And once it is tested, it actually will get published into the repositories. In the repository, we can then see it as the developer, and that's what we kind of get to next when we jump over into the Data Integration Hub. So now the Data Integration Hub is basically a browser-based tool. It's got a home page where we can see everything that's going on. And it's probably kind of actually a good idea to explain the Data Integration Hub in that way. You can see different artifacts like this orders. Consider the topic. So we will define this data domain. We can see that on the right-hand side. It's going to be used by several consumers. They subscribe to this. Our big data analytics, our EDW, finance, and the sales ODS, they all subscribe to that. So, and then a system will publish this order data, and there's a publication. So as we discussed in the publication side is probably where we want to address the data quality. So different things in here. So we capture this as an application. So we name these applications. They're either publishing or subscribing to it. We talked about the topics. So, the different topics that are interesting in our data domain that we will model. And then, we can essentially schedule and run this. And so I'm going to tie this back a little bit more to the customized data IDQ or Informatica data quality. So here is a particular screen where we can import logic that we have built either in Power Center, in Informatica Big Data Management, or in data quality. So what we can do is basically we can point to that and we can say, bring me in some data quality mappings for publications, and I'm going to search for that, and we can look at, then it directly connects to what we call the model repository service, so basically the metadata of the solution. So we can see that we have an application for publishing the data quality customers. So that's basically in our repository. This is what we're going to leverage. So how did I get there? So how do I build this? I basically do this in the Informatica developer tool. So this is one of the possible tools that we can use for data movement with DIH, and Scott mentioned correctly that it can be Power Center, it can be cloud, or it can be basically the developer, so the platform. So this is what I am using to feed this table here on the right. So it's basically comes from my DIH repository, DIH_pub. It's going to have this table. So this is basically corresponds to my data integration hub topic. So what it has is, or what we can see, it's going to have all the different fields that actually describe this customer, as well as a couple of internal DIH fields, which I'm also feeding. But then the important thing is that I'm going to leverage 3 different rules here. So here's actually this marital status rule. So that's interesting because in the previous section, we have discussed how the data steward can use data profiling to discover anomalies and then build some rules and reference tables that allow us to clean up the data. So this works from the same repository as the data steward's analyst tool works from. So sharing and leveraging those rules just simply becomes an effort of looking at the imported rules, that we may have, like address cleansing, standardizing the marital status, or here, basically this is our data as a service connection. So this is using a web service, so that is published out, and you subscribe to this, and then you can see that, this basically connect to the published WSDL, and you will see all the different inputs into the service. We just basically connect it from the source data, connect what you're trying to validate, and it's going to invoke that service at the runtime. So a little bit behind the scenes here, so you can actually see a little bit better on what does this provide. And Thomas had mentioned that. So what we can do here, just look at a data preview, if you will, of the output of this data as a service rule for phone. So we provide a phone in, and as Thomas mentioned, you get a bunch of very useful data out, as far as, is this a landline, a mobile phone? You get some information about the country and the time zone, and you also get some latitude and longitude information. And then also, very importantly, you get an error indicator so that later on, we don't want any exception records probably go into the DIH. We rather have them go into the exception handling, so we can use that as a filter. And then also another kind of more important rule that the marital status rule, we can look at this quickly here, just this is what the developer will typically do. They run, this through here. You can see it's all getting standardized very nicely. And then also as far as the address quality rule, it's using in this case, we have this as a data as a service or kind of on-prem with a directory. So I can submit the addresses of my source data, and I get some information out, get it all parsed out if I want to use different components of it. But then also, most importantly, again, I'm getting a match code, which is typically this 2-character thing, and I can, basically expand that out to see what that match code means, because later on, again, I want to filter on that match code. So when I actually build my artifact for the data integration hub, I'm going to use a filter here, and I'm going to look at only the good data. So to say, if the match code is either a C3 or a C4, and the phone responds with no error, that's when I want to use this data and publish it into the data integration hub. So this is basically what I built in developer. And then as you have seen when I did the search, I will do this. I will basically say, deploy this. And when I deploy it, it gets turned into an application. So, and then that application in turn is what I can see here that I will import into the data integration hub. So then I have that linkage, so I can leverage that artifact that I have built that has all these data quality rules in them, basically the rule to standardize the marital status, the address, and the phone, to use the data as a service. And then essentially what we would do, and I do this manually, but obviously the data integration hub is very big on scheduling. So, but just to show you a little bit more about this, so this is also one of the things that Scott was talking about, the visibility and the management aspect of it. We are going to see everything that the data integration hub controls, and as we mentioned, it can span really various things. It can be cloud jobs, data quality jobs, Power Center, big data management. And we can see this in one space here, so and can see it in one spot. So when it runs, we can kind of see what the detail of it is. We can see it starts. In this case, the data quality mapping. We can see this on the bottom here. With a request ID, and then it's going to actually manage and start this, and provide the data into this data integration hub topic. Sometimes what I do is I may go out here to the actual monitor so we can just kind of see this. So these are the ones that I ran today. So this is essentially the Informatica platform. So this is the administration tool. We can see this is a deployed mapping application with the publishing the DQ customers, and we can see whether that runs or not. And we can just use normal Informatica type of monitoring techniques to see what happened. But at the end of the day, this is kind of for the administrator of the DIH. This is really where they need to go to, because if everything is fine, you just get some information about what happened. Sometimes there could be errors in these events where as the person administering this, you would just go in there and see, oh, okay, here's an error on this particular subscription, and you can get the detail of it. And you can click on that too, and then without having to go out of out of the data integration hub tool, we can see, okay, there's some kind of an issue with the password, and they're using the password for this particular source database that they're using. We can tell the DBA to fix this, and then we can sort of reprocess this from the DIA. So these are kind of just touching on some of the benefits that Scott was mentioning about in general about the DIH. And then also, as we said about visibility, we have this dashboard component where, as the operator, I can go in there and I can see what happened to these particular jobs that I was running. So basically, in this case, I just created a sample application for data quality here for what we have seen in my overview. We have this one system publishing to it, and in the process of it, we're actually cleaning up the data in a pretty large scale where we just say, we just attack everything. We attack the phone number, the actual postal address, and that marital status rule that we have created as a data steward and then shared with the developer so that we can have this kind of sharing between the different roles that we have in the organization. And then coming to the exceptions, because exceptions were something that we filtered out. So we didn't want the exceptions to go into the DIH. So this is kind of normal, if you will, data quality best practice. So from the analyst tool, we can also have an exception management area where there will be tasks for the data steward where they can get alerted to that and they can see if there are any bad records. They get notified, and they can go into the screen of their task to see what the exceptions were of those various flows, and then they can see that highlighted in red. And a lot of times, obviously what we can do as a data steward, we can validate this. It's kind of the back-end task. If we research, let's say, what is the actual driver's license for this particular customer that was wrong, and we figure this out in some other fashion, we can actually edit this here. We can fix the exception, and it's going to get audited and reviewed, and potentially it gets approved by their manager. So that's all part of this tool. We can basically fix this with the manual intervention here, then accept the record, or if it's really bad, we can reject it and then also potentially reprocess it. So this is all something that the data steward will basically do in the tool. So having said all that, it brings us to probably the questions portion of the meeting today.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Stefan. That was really great. And let's see, maybe I should go ahead and share my screen so that we get that full.
Yeah, you can probably just.
Oh, actually, could you do it? If you could put yours back full screen, that would be great.
Oh,
and
sure,
I can cover the questions.
Yep.
And so,
yep.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. As you can see from the demo that Stefan prepared, you can see how you can, create data quality and DaaS processes, and you can import them and use them within Data Integration Hub and then distribute the results. So from the questions, we've got quite a few questions. Let me go through and take them. And I have, of course, Stefan and Thomas here to help. So let me start with the first one. What are the key differences between doing data quality and data as a service in Data Integration Hub versus Power Center?
Yeah, I can take that. This is Stefan. So I have shown you doing it. So Data Integration Hub basically has the ability to leverage Power Center, Informatica Cloud Services, or what we've shown the developer, essentially the platform. So where there's IDQ and big data management. So I have shown, or today we have shown you this from basically the platform IDQ, but because Data Integration Hub can also control Power Center jobs, you can use those same rules. So essentially the maplet. So in Power Center there will be just a maplet for the same thing. You know, we can leverage the same thing like the marital status, the DaaS, data as a service type, web service consumer. We can leverage that exact same thing, even though we haven't shown this today, but it's basically the choice of our customers how they want to kind of drive those data quality rules.
That's great. And let's see, the next question is, can Informatica's data as a service products be used around the world? They say they have a lot of global customer data.
Yeah, I could take that one for you, Scott. Absolutely, we can be used across the world. I think I had mentioned earlier in my presentation that, you know, all three components of our verification service, the email verification, the phone validation, and the address verification can all be used globally in over 240 countries and territories. So there's a huge reach. Obviously, your customer base is likely not to be located just to one specific geography, so we build basically a data quality solution that is also not associated to just one specific geography. It can be used everywhere, which is important.
That's great, Thomas, and that's one of the advantages of Informatica is we have the breadth and scale to cover the entire world, and that's important for large organizations. So the next question I had, first I want to say there's some questions we've gotten about like version compatibilities and some detailed questions, and I think that I would suggest that you contact your Informatica account manager or team or Informatica Global Services for your specific questions, because there are, you know, a lot of details and dependencies behind those. But let's see, what else I wanted to say was, there's a question here. What else beyond data quality and data as a service? Is there anything else that can be done in the hub? Like what kind of processing?
Yeah, this is Stefan. I can take this. I mean, obviously, any kind of processing, you think of the hub as it's going to organize how you go about data integration. So you define these data domains or topics, and you define how you feed them with a publication. And then subscriptions, as Scott mentioned, a lot of times they can be completely automatic and just self-service. But so anything that you can build with Power Center or with cloud or with big data management or data quality, any of the rules, transformations, or you could potentially mask data. You could you could just do any kind of heavy lifting type of transformations that any of our engines will allow. That is something that you can then associate with the processing feeding the data integration hub.
That's great. Yeah, I know there are customers using MDM and then distributing the results with the hub, and also doing some advanced data transformations.
Right.
So what other question is, can Data Integration Hub do publish and subscribe, interact with AWS, Azure, services like Redshift?
Yes, I mean, the publish and subscribe idea obviously is kind of inherent in the tool, where we're defining these different flows to either publish, and then applications or self-service or teams can subscribe to it. So as far as the Azure or AWS, that's a possible deployment model for the hub if you want to run it in those kind of environments. But or things like Redshift, I mean, they would probably become a subscription target, if you will, a lot of times, and that works extremely easily with our Informatica Cloud offering. And then Cloud can be one particular possibility of using a workflow in the Data Integration Hub.
Okay, great. I have a question. What is the relationship between Data Integration Hub and PowerCenter?
Okay, so PowerCenter is one of the possible data movement engines, if you will, that the Data Integration Hub can leverage. So think of the Data Integration Hub as an abstraction layer that is on top of that, as we have seen, to avoid all these point-to-point things and have a more organized architecture, so have this kind of a data hub architecture. So the Data Integration Hub comes with all these ability, right, to visualize, to manage, to define, to schedule, to control, and to monitor, you know, send rule alerts out and control all of this. And it also has that great flexibility to use for the data movement that has to take place for publication or subscription. The Data Integration Hub will leverage PowerCenter, or it will leverage Informatica Cloud Services or Big Data Management or these kind of solutions that we offer. It will leverage that, or in some cases, like if you want to just go into the Data Integration Hub and just say, I want to subscribe to this data set and just have a daily file. You can then complete a wizard in the DIH, and then the DIH will automatically, behind the scenes, actually create a full PowerCenter mapping and workflow. So PowerCenter is kind of a big part of the architecture there.
Thanks, Stefan. There's a question. Can the wizards in DIH be used with Data Quality and DaaS?
Can the wizards be used? Well, partially the wizards will be used because, I mean, even if you I should have probably shown that. So even if you have this application that I had, right, that uses the publication, I have shown you how you can link a IDQ, an Informatica Data Quality Mapping, into the DIH, but then there is a wizard that would define this as a publication. So when you're running a publication or subscription wizard, you will define whether this is basically automatic from file or database, or whether you're leveraging something that you had brought into this workflow screen that I've shown, where we can see that there were PowerCenter real-time or Big Data Management IDQ mapping. So you can either leverage those and then you tie it together with using a publication wizard, yes.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. I think we're about out of time. So let me just take one last question. Let's see. How is Data Integration Hub different from an enterprise service bus?
Yeah, that's kind of a big general architecture question that we often get. I like to talk about the Data Integration Hub as a pub/sub paradigm for data sets, because the data sets can be very large, or they can be small or medium size, or they can even be in near real time. So, and then the Data Integration Hub also persists those, obviously, because we don't know exactly when a subscriber needs this. So an enterprise service bus does not do any persistence, with the exception of guaranteeing that the message is delivered. And also, an enterprise service bus usually just handles the smaller events, like a business event where somebody may change an address on a portal application, and the ESB is in charge of, distributing this to the other applications within that organization. But the Data Integration Hub is really about organizing the data sets. It's not just about small little messages and passing them on between applications. It's about even large data sets, small data sets, or near real time, where we can persist those and organize them in form of our topics, and then have actual, sometimes even complete self-service, where teams could subscribe to the data, or where we set up subscriptions for applications so that we deliver those data sets as opposed to just those transactional messages.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Stefan, and thanks a lot, Thomas. I really appreciate it. I think we've reached the end of our webinar here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope you found this interesting. Please give us some feedback, and if you have more questions, reach out to us and let us know, and we'd be happy to dive into the details about how you could explore using this solution within your organization. So thank you once again, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Goodbye.